So I'm going to talk about Khedive Tawfik's relationship with Urabi and how Urabi confronted him in front of his palace. So let's begin with some background info.
First of all, it was the British occupation, and Lord Cromer was responsible for Egypt at that time. One of the laws in the era was capitulations, which are laws that allow foreigners to be governed by their laws instead of Egyptian laws when in Egypt. The British occupation and Khedive Ismail were some of the main reasons that drove Egypt into debt. The British and the Khedive did not allow Egyptians to have higher ranks in the army, just Turks, which kind of pissed off the Egyptians.
So since the leader at that time was Khedive Tawfik, let's hear some info about him. He was the eldest son of the Khedive Ismail. He was given a place near Cairo to live in, and for 12 years he passed an uneventful life, farming and establishing a reputation for a good sense and fair dealing with his fellow tenants. He lived in Abdeen Palace. He always agreed to be with the Egyptians, but he was planning to take over Egypt behind their back. He also invited the British back into Egypt to restore power, so you can probably guess that most Egyptians did not like Tawfik. So about the confrontation in front of the palace, well, Tawfik knew that Egyptians hated the capitulations. However, Khedive Tawfik didn't ban this law. He wanted to have a good relationship with the British. So the Egyptians were pretty disappointed. And, like, come on, they had the right. Foreigners could do whatever they wanted to do. They didn't follow the Egyptian rules. It was a huge disorder. Other than that, there were other events at that time that made Egyptians angry. They also demanded for a constitution, a change of the government, and an increase in the size of the army for the Egyptians, not the Turks. It was said that foreigners were doing whatever they wished and they underestimated the abilities of the Egyptians. Ahmed Urabi couldn't stand the situation anymore. Arabians were called the people that wanted foreigners to leave the country, as it seemed that they took over a country in their own rule. They all went out to the palace in order to complain. The Khedive asked for the British and Ottomans to send them troops in order to calm down the situation. Now, about Urabi and Tawfik, there was already one showdown against the relationship with the foreigners. It was a movement that had the slogan of Egypt for Egyptians, and it was also against the government because the Egyptians had no control. Tawfik arrested the leader of the movement, Ahmed Urabi, but he was already released from the colonel, assuming that it was a trap. The second showdown was the movement out of the Abdeen Palace. And here's some interesting thing. There was a rumor that said that when Urabi was talking to Khedive, he was still on his horse and the Khedive was standing up, which shows great disrespect. Although that's very untrue. What happened was the complete opposite of that. The Khedive was on his horse, and Urabi also went off his horse and sheathed his sword to show respect to the Khedive.